Marriage is the most interesting part of a person's life because it's a bet. Either you win or you lose. Hey, I'm Max. I'm 29 and I've been married to my wife Rachel, 27, and it's been 4 years since we've been married. And trust me, marriage in my life has been such a roller coaster of emotions that I've experienced almost every emotion in such a short period of time. Rachel and I are poles apart. A typical case of a shy and introverted guy like me, and my wife, a social butterfly with an immense network of people. She's the life of a party, and I tend to get exhausted and drained of all energy by the time any friends gathering at our home ends. I know it sounds like a movie, but in reality, it doesn't work like that because it took quite an effort to drag our marriage this far, and I have no idea how I'm going to make it last forever. And with our poles apart personalities, there's one common middle ground that we had. The reason I'm even writing about this is our common friend Eric, a friend that I don't know how to label. Because, well, he is the one whose intentions I always doubt. And he's the one who tried to keep our marriage intact, and it sounds ironic that a person who is your well-wisher and the person helping to negotiate between us is the one I mistrust the most. Because that common friend was no one but my wife's ex. Eric had been Rachel's first boyfriend and had been in a relationship with her longer than my marriage. They had been in a relationship since they were 16 years of age, and remained together until their 20s. Example, around 7 years. They both get separated due to different life choices and also his responsibility towards money and finances, which led him to debt and financial instability. Also, his extravagant lifestyle is difficult to afford. I met Rachel only 4 years ago when I was 26 and financially settled. And now Eric is her best friend. The kind of friends who don't need words to talk, and they know each other so well that they can already predict the responses and reactions. I have no hatred towards their friendship, but I doubt if his feelings are still lurking deep within him, or even worse, if they're mutual. They both are so comfortable with each other, and I hate to admit it, but being Rachel's husband, I feel like an outsider. Not only that, I've been third-wheeled several times whenever we hang out together. Eric has been friends with me, but he's not even close to being my best friend. Rachel doesn't know how she could understand that I cannot trust this guy, who is my wife's ex and her best friend. Whenever I try to express my concern, she just laughs it off, saying I'm getting jealous and insecure, and why would I not be insecure because a woman having a man like Eric as her best friend sets the bar so high that it's almost impossible for me to reach that bar as her husband. He knows her right size of clothing, who she would hate later when her mood is off, and how to deal with it. It's as if someone wrote him the instruction manual for Rachel. Eric, most of the time, confirms that he has moved on in his life, and so does Rachel. They had no harsh feelings. They were happy to be friends with each other. Please, I need some suggestions on this, because guys, I'm being a bit insecure, or I don't know, is it possible to have a best friend like that? Especially when you guys are exes. I will update you soon. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. So I'm going to be completely honest with you. This story turns out to be absolutely, positively insane. It has 4 updates, and I just want you guys to sit back and relax because update number 2 is going to have you on edge. If you guys are new to the channel, take a second, hit that subscribe button. It helps support the channel a lot, and I appreciate you for doing that. Guys, let's just do it. Let's jump into update number 1. Hey guys, am I being insecure? Please tell. Once again, I have great news to share. I feel so blessed to tell you that my wife Rachel is pregnant. I never thought I could bear so much happiness at once, and I was excited that I wanted to celebrate and announce to the whole world that I was going to be a father. But guess what? So much happiness did not last long because Eric was also present to ruin the moment in my life. I took Rachel to the hospital and talked to the doctor about a health checkup and an ultrasound. It was overwhelming to see the baby inside the womb, and on our way home we shopped at eateries and groceries that were good for mother and baby. I helped with the house chores and had dinner. In the midst of my happiness, I failed to notice Rachel's anxiety and the crease on her forehead turning deeper. Just then the doorbell rang, and I obviously expected Eric to be standing, but I was in a good mood, so I greeted him. He asked about the oranges that he bought that day before, and the same ones that have not been taken by Rachel. It's good for her at this time, and I did not bother to answer him. I got busy with my chores and let him talk to Rachel while I prepared dinner. I cooked to distract myself from them. It took me 2 hours, and he was not finished with his chit-chatting, but I didn't mind. I was rather glad that her mood improved, and I was fine with it. I arranged the dinner on the table and called them out. We were almost finished, and my phone rang, and I went inside to pick it up when I got a hold of Rachel's phone. Meanwhile, Rachel cleaned the table, and when I came out, she told me to get some rest while she did the dishes. Eric wanted to help her, but I sent him off to buy ice cream, saying that the sugar would cheer up her mood, and reluctantly he went to get it. I locked the room and door and started scrolling through Rachel's phone because her mobile screen flashed Eric's name on it a few hours ago. I know I should not have checked, but I wanted to look at her chats with Eric. She had told him about her missing period 4 days ago, and he had recommended her doctor have a pregnancy test. I was shattered when I saw that she had confirmed 4 days ago that she was pregnant through a pregnancy kit at home. So I was the last person to know about this, and then it hit me. When Eric asked about the oranges he bought for her the day before, especially for her pregnancy, I was disappointed when I heard the door knocking, but I did not want to talk to her or face her. I felt betrayed because, as the father of a child, I had been taken away from my right to know about it. But the knocks on the door became harder, accompanied by Rachel's voice calling me to open it up. Well, I opened up and asked why she was hiding the fact that she was pregnant 4 days ago. Rachel was baffled by the question and said that she wanted to surprise me. I snapped, saying to stop making excuses for hiding things in the name of a surprise. I also proceeded to ask what she planned next. Apart from this, my trust was getting eroded. She defends herself, saying she was worried about how I would react since I'm not a parent-type person. That was absurd. Why would I hate being a father? Till then, Eric comes back, and I questioned him about the same thing and got the same reaction as Rachel did. Before he could answer, Rachel interrupted, saying that it was a surprise. He agreed on the same thing. Well, it just seemed that he explained how she had been trying to conceive for almost a year. I retorted, asking why she had not discussed it with me. He said that I'm not a parent kind of person. I'm not good with children or an ideal father figure for her kids. Hence, that she was not sure that both of you should even plan on having kids in the first place. And, well, the way they addressed me, I started to become unsure of myself. Eric tries to cheer me up, saying that I was thinking too much about it and ruining her happiness. Stop worrying about her at this time. I hate to agree, but he was right. He took the initiative to plan a baby shower, and we threw a great bash and invited our family, friends, and neighbors. Update number 2. Hey guys, please, a bit of suggestions, cause things are getting worse. During Rachel's entire pregnancy, I took care of everything I could think about, and I took her to the regular doctor's appointments. Took great care of every ingredient while cooking her meals, and went shopping with her for all the essentials and clothing for her and the baby. I was glad that Rachel had reduced her interaction with Eric throughout the time. I finally felt that Eric must have stepped back to give her some space after all. He might have realized that she is starting her own family, and he should have his own life as well. I sighed, relieved, not to have him around in my life and Rachel's. I fell in love more whenever I saw my baby through the ultrasound growing every day. I fell for her as well while taking care of her and the baby, and I'm thankful to her for blessing me with such a lifetime experience. I can't wait to be a father. I wanted to prove to her that I would be an ideal father figure, which I had been blamed for previously, and cannot risk leaving her alone. I stopped taking on projects that would require me to travel further, because I wanted to be around her. But then Rachel advised me that it would affect my career in the long run, and that we would also need to build a secure future for our baby. She could also take care of herself, and I don't need to be insecure. I agreed, so I started to travel for projects that were 1 to 3 days away, and whenever I left Rachel with the caretaker. I also told her to attend fewer parties as it could mess with her sleep cycle. I refrained from eating anything unhealthy and strictly made her consume only handmade meals. 7 months passed peacefully, although with her random mood swings it was tolerable. It was the beginning of the 8th month when I was given another project, and it was just a 1 to 3 day project this time, so I went without thinking much. I called the caretaker, who said she had a viral infection and could not come today, and she also said it would not be safe around Rachel being pregnant, and she apologized for not being available. I was getting late, and I could not decide what to do. Rachel suggested that Eric came over and takes care of her. I thought of calling her other friends, but she denied it. She said she only wanted to be around Eric, and I hate leaving that jerk with my wife behind my back. But I knew that he was honestly the only person who could understand her while she was having her mood swings, so I agreed on one simple condition, and also called Rachel's other female friends along with him. I could not say on her face that I did not want her to be alone in the company of Eric. I reached my destination and called to check on them. It was all good until my other friend asked if she could leave at night, as she has to wake up early tomorrow morning for work, and also promised me that she would be back early before lunch. I could not force her, and it was already late at night, and Rachel was supposed to be asleep by then. She's been sleeping a lot lately, you know. I agreed and thanked her for being there, and I was relieved at work and looking forward to returning home as soon as possible from the trip. I was planning to update you guys, but things have taken an unexpected turn in my life. It was her 8th month, and Rachel's mood swings have not gotten better since I returned. I knew it was the hormones, so I can't blame her as well. I was already prepared for this and had studied enough about it. So I dealt with everything that prevented her from messing up her mood, but things were getting worse, and the more I tried to be cautious, the more I felt like the results were the opposite. Rachel stopped cooperating. She refuses to take her regular medication, and I had to force her to take it. She denies having home-cooked meals and is always craving junk food and sugary foods. She picks fights in public and starts crying while blaming me for everything. I started getting judgmental looks from people around me, especially neighbors, friends, and people we deal with daily. But I have to take her seriously because things have gotten out of hand a bit, since she mentioned Eric and started criticizing my capability as a husband and questioning my fatherly parenting. She successfully gets on my nerves since I was tired, running errands for her the entire time and doing all the house chores. Keeping up with her mood swings and her refusal to cooperate with me, and on top of that, she started judging and blaming me, and God knows for what. I refused to react and started drinking to drown my rage, which could, hurt her and me in the long run. She started throwing things at me and just throwing tantrums, so I yelled at her to shut up at the top of my voice, and I got drunk. It was almost midnight, and the neighbors started sneaking from their houses, and the light turned on because of our voices. Enraged, I told her to go to Eric if she liked him so much. Well, she got to tears and started packing her bags to leave. I didn't even try to stop her. She had already done enough to embarrass me in front of people, so I went inside my study room and locked myself in. She kept pulling her luggage and creating a bigger scene, disturbing people late at night. I was too tired and frustrated to act sensible and try to stop her, because I failed to see that it was not her hormones but her the entire time, and I fell asleep. The next morning, the house was eerily silent. I looked everywhere. It was empty. I could not find her anywhere, and then I remembered she actually left, and I tried to call her, but she did not pick up. I tried to text and message her constantly, and it was all the same. No reply. I hated the idea of calling Eric to check on her, but I dialed it, and he confirmed my worst fear of her running back to him. I was about to yell at him that he had played with her mind, but instead, he did something quite the opposite. He said that he would send her back soon, and he would make her understand and promised that she would apologize for it. I was ready to rush back to her, but this time as well, I did what he said. Update number 3. Hey guys, I thought things were getting better, but it was quite the opposite, and now I'm just miserable. Things have fallen apart in a week. On my birthday, thankfully she returned, and I always kept checking on Eric to see whether she was taking her medication, eating her food, and sleeping regularly, and I knew that Eric knows her well enough that whatever he makes her do, she'll do it. And for the first time, I want him to be on my team. I met her when I came back home from the office, and when I switched on the light, she said, "Happy birthday, Max," in unison. I remembered that I had a birthday, and I would have forgotten if they had not wished me well because of the daily stress from work and Rachel's pregnancy. I was relieved when I saw her holding a cake for me, wearing a birthday cap, and Eric standing along with her. I was happy to see her smiling, and the rest of the people at the party were our common friends, family members, and some neighbors as well, especially those in front of them. I was embarrassed 2 days ago, and mostly those who were invited to a baby shower. I was a little shy about confronting so many people and being the center of attention, though. Eric offered me a stiff drink and tried to loosen me up. It helped quite a lot, to be honest, and I denied drinking, but he insisted, saying it was my birthday and I had a reason to celebrate that I got Rachel back. He wanted his thanks to be accepted only when I accompanied him for one more drink. I drank it, but it tasted weird. I started to lose balance, so he just laid me on the couch, and he just kept talking about how other girls were checking me out, and he also proceeded to ask why I wanted to be with her. Before I could say anything, he said what Rachel really has on her mind when it comes to me. To her, I only want her for the baby. I only changed myself when I found out about her pregnancy and tried to prove myself as a worthy father, but not a worthy husband. Eric said that he pities me, which is why he sent Rachel and said so many mean things to me in the name of Rachel. I was furious with Eric, but I wanted to talk to Rachel first. I tried to get up. The drink was getting the best of me, but I had not drunk so much that I could not balance my senses and my body. I went to Rachel, and she looked scared. I asked her to come into the room since I wanted to talk to her alone. She starts crying and yelling for him to leave her alone. This time, her loud, shrill voice was stinging my ears, so I screamed at her to shut up, and she just started sobbing. I tried pulling her by her arm because I was scared of getting embarrassed again, but Eric started pretending that it was a huge deal and hyped up the situation without any reason at all. I did not understand, nor was I interested. I wanted to talk to her and had to pull her into the room with me. I didn't care why she was resisting, but I knew she would create a scene, so I closed the bedroom door by the time Eric switched off the music. She started throwing things around as soon as I closed the door. She could not let me speak and just kept on crying out loud. Meanwhile, Eric entered the room, grabbed my mouth, and shouted that I should stop being violent. He told Rachel to check whether people had left the place, and I fainted in a few minutes. When I woke up in the next morning, my head was spinning and all I could see were shrunken balloons, half-eaten food items, spilled drinks, and my favorite plant broken. He tried to remember what happened yesterday, but could only think of Eric making me drink. He said something I don't remember exactly and forgot the rest due to brain fog and memory blackout because of excessive drinking. I was again alone at my place and the doorbell rang. I got a parcel. It was an envelope and I found paper inside. It was divorce papers. I could not comprehend the word divorce written on them. How was that possible? I called Rachel asking about it, and she only replied that it was exactly what it looked like. All she said was that she wanted me to sign them as quickly as possible or I would face the consequences. Well, I refused and asked for all that she said. If I didn't do that, I would have to face the consequences. Wow. I waited for her to tell me the reason, but in my answer, I was charged with assault and emotional distress. Intentional infliction of emotional distress, IIED, due to my outrageous and extreme misconduct and behavior that could affect her during pregnancy. I was shocked to believe that the person I took care of the most was landing me in such a terrible situation. I talked to my lawyer, and he promised to help. Waiting for her at the court was a terrible experience, and at that moment I thought about all the emotions that I've experienced so far in my 4 years with her. But I was wrong. This was once-in-a-lifetime type experience, and the worst part is that I don't know what I did to land up here like this, handcuffed. She made the statement that I tend to mistrust and question her character and integrity by pointing fingers at her friendship with Eric. I had caused her intentional infliction of emotional distress, especially during the times of her pregnancy, due to my skeptical nature. I tried to threaten her that I would leave her and call her names, like threatening her in public, and she ended up crying in front of a lot of people. According to her, things went out of control when I yelled at her and demanded her by saying that she should go back to Eric. Because of my violent outrage and throwing things that scared her, she had to leave the house before I kicked her out. My violent outrage was also witnessed by the people who were at my birthday party who heard similar noises, like they heard 2 days ago when she left the house before the birthday party. It was when I was drunk and threatening her by yelling that I would talk to her alone. And I did not stop by starting to drag her into the room by her arm, closed the door, and started threatening her by throwing things that could injure her. But she was lucky because I was so drunk that I missed my target of aiming at her. But Eric came to the right time to save her and grabbed me so I could not hit her anymore, and fainted later. People at the party confirmed her statements, and they all said the same thing. Also, to confirm the history of such outrage over the last 3 weeks, the evidence was the statements given by the people who witnessed us getting into fights and her crying loudly when I got embarrassed that night. Those who we deal with on a daily basis, our neighbors, people who live in our town, and also those with whom she shared her problems. Like her kiddie party friends, our common friends and neighbors, were proof of the drama. I was trapped on all sides. I tried my best to put aside all these moments that were witnessed by the people, but I had no idea that the only thing that was visible and evident was on her body. The fingerprints on her wrist, which were unfortunately mine. And looking at it, I could not figure out how I could do such a thing. Was it intentional? How could I ever hurt someone I love, let alone her? Or had the drinks gotten the best of me and I acted out of jealousy? I started doubting myself and I felt disappointed in myself, thinking that even if I had not ever threatened her previously, I had acted out of jealousy, and all her previous grudges piled up, leading to the case against me. So, I was ashamed of myself that I started to believe they questioned about me as a life partner, a father, or a person, so I went into depression. The divorce was claimed, and I was fined for causing her emotional distress. I have to pay child support once the child is born. Update number 4. Guys, it's been 2 months, 2 long months, and things have taken an unexpected turn. Since I was depressed, to avoid my thoughts, I had to keep to myself and keep occupied, and started juggling between multiple jobs. I already needed a part-time job, since my current job won't be enough to pay child support after paying the fine. So I decided to work at a food joint. There I found my friend Lisa. She was a really kind person, and her optimism inspired me to work on myself. She was struggling financially and applying for multiple times at the job. She applied for a nanny job, and she was very excited on her first day and told me how her day was. I listened, but I choked on my meal when she started dropping names. My ears were not prepared when she said Eric and Rachel were such a cute couple. She had clicked the pictures with the baby as well, and I went into tears, thinking it had been too long since I was unaware that my baby had been born into this world. Hesitantly, she showed me pictures, and my jaw fell to the floor. The baby, my baby, was a mixed race. I asked her if she used the filter, but she said the baby was brown-skinned. My whole life was a lie. I was made guilty of a crime I never committed. I swore to take revenge on them and told her to video me and share her the live location once she reached their place. Well, she did just that. She showed me the baby, the wall photographs, everything that would confirm it. I reached into the house, searched for the marriage certificate and the documents of the baby's birth certificate, and clicked on the pictures of every document and wall family photographs in the baby. I rushed back to my lawyer, who had previously helped me with the case, just to hand over all the evidence. I met her after 2 months when she looked so nervous, and for the first time in 2 months I felt relieved but angry. I want her to feel the same way I did 2 months ago. She finally confessed how she fell for me, but over the years of marriage she realized it was nothing more than a mistake, and it became a burden for her to carry it. She met Eric again after she got married, and they became the best of friends, because they still clicked, like years ago. She realized her feelings one night when they spent time together while I was out on some business trip. She was still indecisive until her marriage. She wanted to divorce me. But Eric got fired from his job and he could not support his family financially. Meanwhile, she had been expecting her period and she dreaded it when she skipped it. She told Eric and he suggested that her doctor had discovered her pregnancy. She wanted to tell me, but Eric was not prepared. She gave him 4 days to decide on it, and he planned on permitting her to reveal it to me, but she lied and said the baby was mine. But they forgot how I would react to it when I found out that Eric knew this already, and somehow they managed to gaslight me to keep their plan intact. Eric, well, he was not in state to support himself, and Rachel was still wanting to reveal the truth. But Eric did not want to tell anyone about it ever because of his extravagant lifestyle, and neither of them could afford the bills by themselves, and Rachel agreed with Eric since she needed to secure a future for her child. So, Eric let her stay with me without coming in between us, and Rachel, approaching her 8th month of pregnancy, started to work on a plan when I left for work. They also paid the nanny to lie and not come that day so she could insist on Eric. They worked out their next move, and when I returned, she had already started working on it. She looked for the best place where she could create a scene to gain the attention of most people. While socializing among peers with her friends, neighbors, and relatives, she indirectly hinted to others about being a victim of my mistrust and fabricated lies about how I threatened my wife, who is skeptical of her relations with Eric. With Eric's permission, she picked up a fight with me by provoking and seeking a reaction by hurting my self-esteem. But she failed to get the reaction that she expected, as I only reacted verbally. She had to make an extra effort and use my words against me, creating a scene to get the neighbors' attention. She goes back to him and they plan a surprise birthday party where they invite the same neighbors, friends, and peers and Rachel interacts with. Eric spiked my drink and did the same thing Rachel was doing, i.e. to provoke me by making him jealous, hurt, and targeting my self-esteem. I got up to talk to her, and Eric, trying to take advantage of the situation, hyped it up by portraying me as a violent person in the eyes of people. But I did nothing of such. I just pulled Rachel by the hand, and it was enough for Rachel to put up an act of fear, terrified of me, and start throwing things and calling me out to stop once the doors were closed, making people believe I was the one doing all this. But I could not do that. I could not even bear the loud noises she was making. Then Eric came and he grabbed me from behind, and he turned the music off to let the people hear what was happening. Rachel and Eric confessed that it was important to frame me under the case of assault and IIED to get divorced easily without having to explain to me. After pregnancy, I could deny the child's care because as a non-biological parent, she's typically not going to be obligated to pay any type of child support after a separation or divorce, after discovering that the child isn't mine. So, she has to take desperate measures to get everything done before she completes the 9th month duration and for the child. And Eric doesn't earn enough to fend for her and the baby's bills, pay for the hospital, and support his extravagant lifestyle when Rachel does not earn and is a housewife. I was heartbroken after finding out all these revelations, and I filed a case against them for charging them with defamation, adultery, and taking child care money that was not his and causing him intentional infliction on emotional distress. Alright, so the comment section, they were on to it. After just a few updates, almost everyone in the comment section of this story was saying how it's obvious that OP's significant other is still in a relationship with Eric, her ex, and I can't even count how many of these commenters were saying, and by the way, don't be surprised if the baby isn't OP's, and sure enough, we find out that it wasn't, and this was all just an elaborate scheme so OP had to pay the child support and get OP's ex with Eric set up for life. I want to know what you guys thought about this story. Do you think OP was 1, an idiot, 2, a floor mat, or 3, just naive? Let me know which one you think down in the comment section. My name's Mr. Reddito. I narrate stories every single day. I ignore my wife's demands. Why? Because she's demanding that I prioritize her over my sickly father that I'm watching after. She's demanding that I buy her some luxurious handbag, when in reality, I need that money for my father's medical expenses. Well, let's just go ahead and cut to the chase. I'm going to divorce her, and she thinks she's gonna hire some hotshot lawyer and take me to the washer in court. But I have a little trick up my sleeve. Hey guys, this is John. The title says it all, but I wanted to give you all a bit of background because I'm in a predicament and I'm at my wit's end. I don't know where else to turn. Up until recently, I was in what I had thought was a successful marriage. My wife, Kate, has always been a bit spoiled and entitled, and I've been so hopelessly in love for so long I was blind to just how much I'd enabled her to become this way. From the moment we got engaged, I allowed her to quit her job and just let me take care of her. I was happy with the arrangements, or as happy as I could be, taking care of an adult who contributes little to the household. Like I said, I've been in love with Kate and blind to all her flaws. But lately, something terrible's happened in my life. Without getting into too many personal medical details, my father, we'll call Tim, 70 male, has been diagnosed with a chronic and life-threatening illness that requires him to have near constant care from me. Dad's been in poor health for a while, but things have progressed and are getting worse and worse. I'm all the family my father has left. My mother passed away long ago, and I'm an only child, and all the other family members live too far away or have already passed. I did what any decent son who cares about his father would do, and I decided to do everything in my power to help out my dad. The doctors have informed me that it's quite likely my father will die from this illness, so I'm devoting as much time and money and attention towards him as I possibly can to make sure my father's final days on this planet are peaceful and full of love. I thought Kate would understand this, as my empathetic human being with a heart would. But ever since I started spending a lot of time, and more importantly money, on my father, Kate's been acting cold and distant. As my father's medical expenses have mounted over time, I have occasionally given Kate less allowance money for her to go shopping and drinking with her girlfriends. And this started creating problems within the marriage. Frankly, at first, I dismissed Kate's bizarre and distant behavior as mere mood swings because I was so preoccupied with caring for my father. I soon found out what Kate was truthfully upset about, though. She had no concern for the health and well-being of my dad the entire time. All she cared about was the money. One day, we got into a heated argument because Kate said I needed to buy her a brand new expensive handbag, and I told her no. And I realized I've never told Kate no before after I said that word, because the way she blew up and started screaming at me was like something out of a horror flick. Our argument over the expensive handbag got so out of hand, I decided to give her some time to cool off while I went to stay at my father's place. This way I could focus on him directly and give Kate the space that she needed, but as I sat at my father's house, tending to his care and staying up all night with him just to give him some company and show my love and appreciation for him, I could not help but start dwelling on the situation with Kate. Was I really married to a woman so heartless that she would sooner demand I buy her a handbag rather than help out, well, with the medical expense my father has incurred? The least she could do is wish my father well. But like I said, she had no concern whatsoever for his health, and for Kate to pile on all this unnecessary stress and drama on me when I'm already under a mountain of pressure tells me Kate must not care much for me either. I did not like these thoughts I was having, but I started thinking about how so much of my money had been flying out the window. My bank accounts were being drained quickly, even before my father's illness manifested. I started getting suspicious and paranoid. I decided to take a close look at my bank statements and financial records, something I've not done in far too long. Much to my disappointment, but not so much to my surprise, I could see, clear as day, where Kate was simply spending me out of my house and home. As silly as it may sound, this Kate did not resemble the woman that I fell in love with all these years ago, and perhaps I was merely too in love to see that Kate had been using me for my money. I did not want to believe it, but the bank statements simply do not lie. It certainly looked as if Kate was merely using me as her own personal credit card. I tried to think of the last time Kate had ever done anything nice or romantic for me. It's always my job to take her out, buy her expensive stuff. I never give gifts or even nice gestures for my efforts. She doesn't give me anything. I knew I needed a game plan before I went back home and confronted Kate about her ridiculous spending levels. I was suspicious that she would try to start the problems for me if I blew up too loud or did not keep my cool. I wanted to be calm and collect when I approached Kate about the spending, so I called up my lawyer friend Bobby. I've known Bobby for years. He's one of the best lawyers around, and I would have been a fool not to consult with him first. I explained this whole depressing and frustrating situation to Bobby, and he was understanding and supportive as a friend, but he was also frank and honest in his assessment of Kate. He told me that, although I might not want to hear this, he was right, I didn't. Kate very much fit the profile of the type of woman who might threaten divorce and threaten me with financial ruin if I confronted her about money. Well, Bobby suggested that before I have this important discussion with my wife, I establish several trust funds and secret accounts just to ensure that both myself and my father had our assets secure from Kate's vengeful and spiteful personality. Even though I did not want to believe my wife would be so cruel and callous, I had to accept that Bobby was likely correct in his view of the matter. I immediately called my bankers and investment people and had them help me protect my money. Bobby also suggested I keep giving some money to Kate so as not to arouse suspicion or make her do anything rash. I agreed. I finally came home after taking a few days away, and as soon as I walked in the door I could see that Kate was still upset. She didn't even greet me or ask me how I was doing. Typical selfishness. All I could do was smile because I was about to drop a bombshell on her. I produced paper evidence in hand of her financial records. I made extra copies in case she tried to destroy it. I carefully started telling Kate about how we need to discuss her spending on luxurious and frivolous items. Immediately, I could sense Kate started to tense up and twitch. I told her that she needed to contribute to the household and start being an equal, participating partner in this marriage. I told her if she was not willing to help me with my father's illness and my time of need, we would need to work on our marriage, and I was calm and mature the whole time. Of course, Kate started screaming and yelling, calling me names and demanding this and that, just like she always does. That's when she dropped the bombshell on me. It turns out, Bobby was correct in his assessment of Kate's personality. She said it clear as day during the argument she wanted a divorce. She even added that she would get the most expensive handbag in the world once the divorce proceedings were over. Well, guys, if you're still here with me, I'm coming to you all for help. Should I try to smooth things over with Kate? Part of me is actually wondering if I am the a-hole. Did I make too big of a deal out of this situation with my father? Do you think I should proceed with divorce and get my revenge on her, or no? I'll take any advice I can get because I'm so upset right now. I'm currently staying at my father's house because I still have to take care of him on top of all this other drama, and I feel like I'm in over my head right now. Update number 1. Hey guys, it's John again, and I have an update for everyone. First, I'd like to thank you who left kind, supportive comments. I received a lot of great advice as well. After considering everything you all said, I've decided that it is indeed in my best interest to sever my marriage with Kate. I have to admit, I still love her right now because this is all so fresh, but this marriage simply can't continue. Kate is never going to change, and I have to leave and make sure she does not take all my money. If Kate gets all my money in divorce court, I won't have a penny left to help my ailing father, and we both will be on the streets. I have another thing I wanted to share with everybody. I wish I could say I'm surprised, but hey, I'm not. Nevertheless, I did not need this extra stress today, so I just told you all that I decided to go through with the divorce with Kate, but today I got a letter in the mail that appeared to have already made this difficult decision for me. While I've been grieving in between taking care of my father, it seems Kate has already hired the best divorce lawyer in town. I won't say his name because we live in a small town and he's very recognizable and a flamboyant figure. I can tell Kate means business. If she's willing to hire this lawyer, she must have every intention of taking me to the cleaners and stripping me of every penny I've earned. Another thing that bothers me is the particular lawyer Kate hired is a public figure who always makes a spectacle out of the trials. I did not want my private life to become the subject of town gossip, but it appears Kate has no shame and likely wants to string my name through the mud. And what if my dad hears about this? This type of stress and attention would be enough to give him a heart attack because he's so frail and, well, unhealthy to be honest with you. So, Does anybody have any advice? I still want to divorce Kate, but maybe I should try to patch things up first. I just don't want to deal with the big courtroom drama with Kate's lawyers. It might sound silly, but the guy is infamous for taking husband's money. Update number 2. Hey guys, I am actually back with another update. I've read everybody's advice and decided to proceed with the divorce as I said I was going to. While I'll admit, Kate's lawyer briefly scared me into giving up because he's such a well-known and infamous figure in town, after reading everybody's comments, I got here and I decided to stick to my guns and have some dignity. Kate has already done more than enough permanent damage to burn the bridge. If she doesn't want to put effort into this marriage, I'm through with her. I decided to call Bobby and give him the news. Frankly, it was a bit embarrassing telling Bobby that he was right about every bit of what he had told me in the first post, but I also had to thank him for suggesting that I do whatever I can to protect my money. We chatted a bit and he was consoling. That's when I asked him the big question. I asked Bobby if he would be willing to represent me in court. He said of course. But then I told him who Kate had hired as a lawyer and Bobby briefly sounded hesitant and said, "Wow, she really does mean business, man." Bobby said that out loud to me, and that was exactly what I had said when I saw the letter. Bobby finally decided that both Kate and her lawyer needed to be taught a lesson, and he agreed to take the case. We started discussing evidence that we could use in court against Kate that would expose her for who she really is. I told Bobby I have multiple copies of the financial statements that proved Kate's reckless spending, and I also had recordings of the recent arguments that I had with Kate. I normally would never record our conversations without telling her, because that would be an invasion of privacy, but I felt like I needed to get these conversations on recording, just in case she tried anything funny. And, well, she ended up doing exactly that. After discussing all this with Bobby, we both felt more confident that we might have a shot in court against the daunting lawyer Kate hired. So, guys, right now, I'm just feeling anxious, I'm feeling nervous. I just wanted to get this recent development off my chest, and I know Kate and her lawyer probably have more tricks up their sleeves, so I need to be ready and prepared for whatever can come next. Update number 3. Hey guys, thanks for reading this far. It's John with yet another update. It's been a little while since my last one, and I know, but the court system moves quite slow, as many of you have realized, and I wanted to fill you on with what happened today. Today was my first court date of the divorce proceedings between me and Kate. Bobby was with me by my side in court, and just as Kate's lawyer was with her. I don't want to sound unconfident, but I'll be honest with all of you. My first court date was a disaster. Kate's lawyer did what he's infamous for around my town. He was flamboyant, over the top and distracting. The actual court proceedings were not even underway yet, and when Kate's lawyer gave an opening statement, he started personally attacking me in front of everybody. Bobby did not even get a chance to defend me from these accusations, and it was all I could do to not jump out of my chair and hit Kate's lawyer in the face. I just had to sit there while this guy lied about me, and Kate sat there with this smug grin on her face, and I recognized it very well. It was the same face she made whenever she got her way. She clearly thought she was winning this court case. The worst part was, Kate's lawyer tried to make it sound as if I was the one who had been neglecting her. I could not believe what was being said. The judge just sat there listening intently as if a prophet was speaking. Then Kate's lawyer asked if Kate could have a chance to go to the stand and make her own statement about me. I could feel my heart beating, and I was so tense because I knew she was about to spread a bunch of lies about me to the public. Sure enough, that's exactly what she did. She started talking about how mean and abusive I am, and how she finally got the courage to divorce me and get away so she could get safety. She even made herself start crying on the stand, and her lawyer had a handkerchief ready for her to use. It just added dramatic effect for sure, and I have no doubt it'll have an effect on the jury and the judge. Bobby and I left the courtroom with a bad feeling today. I can't believe things are going so wrong already. Update number 4. It's me again, guys. I have yet another update about my divorce court proceedings. If you read my last update, you'll know that I had my name slandered across the entire court session by Kate and her money-hungry lawyer. But during today's court session, Bobby and I were given the chance to strike back. You all should have witnessed the look on Kate's face when me and Bobby walked into the courtroom. We spent all morning gathering up documents and evidence of Kate's selfish behavior. We were almost late for court because we had so much to sift through. I walked in with a giant binder full of evidence, and I could see that she was definitely nervous. Immediately, Kate's lawyer tried to file an objection by saying that we were trying to admit evidence that should not be admissible, but the judge agreed to let me and Bobby speak. First, we both explained to the court that my father was sick and in poor health, and that's why I had been, quote, neglecting Kate. But we proved that there was no neglect at all. We showed copies of Kate's spending records and financial statements to the courtroom, and we also showed that her spending increased after my father became ill. Then we played tapes in court of the arguments between me and Kate, and they were difficult to listen to. Not for me, because I kept my cool and was calm in the tapes, but Kate sounded unhinged, and I could tell she was losing the favor of the courtroom. The tapes revealed that Kate was refusing to help me with my father's expenses and was essentially divorcing me over an expensive handbag. Not a great look for her. Then we brought in the most important weapon we had in our arsenal. Bobby asked to call a witness to the stand. The witness was my father. Me and Bobby helped get him to the witness stand with his cane, and I knew my dad was feeling bad and did not want to deal with this today, but he also wanted to do anything he could to help me and get back at Kate for how she treated me. My father explained to the courtroom all the selfishness that he had witnessed from Kate, word for word. He said that even before he was sick, he knew Kate was entitled and only interested in my money. I could tell the courtroom was absolutely stunned. The judge ended the session and said that he would need time to think about what he had heard. Update number 5. Hey guys, it's John, and I just have one more update for everybody here. Thank you for sticking with me. Well, it turns out evidence of me and Bobby admitted to court that day in my last update was just what we needed. We won. The judge and jury were swayed, and most by my father, who garnered the most sympathy from basically everyone. Even the judge admonished Kate for her heartlessness personally, and normally the judge is supposed to remain neutral in these type of situations. He read the verdict to the courtroom, and Kate burst into tears. The judge ordered Kate to vacate my home and allow me to move back in, and she would be given a small alimony sum, but would receive none of my assets or belongings. The judge also ordered that since Kate had lied so much in court and had been exposed as a liar, the judge said Kate would have to keep a job for at least a full year, or else she would be placed in jail for contempt of court. I was ecstatic. Of course, I was grateful for Bobby's help, and I was still upset that my marriage had failed, but I was glad to be rid of Kate. As for what I'm up to now, I have a beautiful new girlfriend who's the polar opposite of Kate. She's generous and caring and does special things for me that Kate would have never done. I'm so in love with her. We have an equal and respectful partnership, and I plan on marrying her someday. The best news of all is about my father. Shortly after the court date, my father's cancer, well, it went into remission. Yes, that's right. My father had terminal cancer the entire time, but we were able to get chemotherapy for him, and he immediately started getting back healthy. As of typing this, my father is, 100% cancer-free, and starting to act like his old self again. Guys, I could not have gotten through this without your help. I know you're all strangers on the interwebs, but your kindness and support and all your great advice helped me pull through one of the darkest times in my life. And for that, I'm so grateful. Well, it looks like another case of karma. Kate got exactly what she deserved, and I just felt bad for John during this whole thing, because he was trying to look after his father, who was sickly. But the best news came at the end of the story when we found out his father had beaten cancer and is 100% free of it. So that's probably the best news about this story, and the second best news is karma decided to come for Kate because she's getting just a little bit of alimony, and that's it. I would like to hear from you guys. What do you make of this story? If you were in John's position, would you have changed anything, or would you have done it exactly like this? I'm just glad OP had Bobby in his corner, who was not only a good lawyer, but a good friend. So guys, drop your opinions in the comment section. I get dragged to court by my ex-wife for more child support and more child support. She doesn't even work. I work 2 jobs tirelessly just to support my children, and now she's taken me back to court. Well, this time, I'm getting a lawyer, and I'm going to fight her. Hey guys, this is going to be a long read. I'm at the end of my rope. The title pretty much sums it up, but there's a lot going on, so I'm going to give you a little bit of background. My name's David. I just got out of a horrible divorce with my ex-wife Laura, who's unfortunately the mother of my 2 beautiful children, but, well, their names are Bert and Bailey. When I first met Laura years back, she convinced me she was an entirely different person. She masqueraded as some kind, thoughtful humanitarian, but she was anything but. Laura is and always was a spoiled little girl. Laura had red flags from the beginning, but I was blinded by her beauty and narcissistic charm. Once she became pregnant, the abuse started to come out overtly, and I knew our relationship was doomed. Yet, I pressed on because I wanted to provide a loving and stable home for our child. It was something I never had, and when the doctors informed us that we would be having twins, I knew I'd have to work twice as hard to keep this relationship afloat for the children. Essentially, every abusive and manipulative behavior you could think of, Laura's guilty of inflicting upon me and the children. Lies, gaslighting, you name it. She cheated on me. She stole from me, she broke my trust, and put me through everything, so much more. She started these arguments with me, got physically violent even, hitting me, throwing stuff, breaking it against me. I never once laid a finger on her. She tells lies about me to the children just to try to brainwash them into thinking I'm a bad guy. But I'm the one busting my butt to put food on their table and clothing on their backs. Unfortunately, Laura hooked herself up with a good lawyer and got custody of my children during the divorce. James, he's the best lawyer in the area, and there's no way I could afford him. I had to get an overworked public defender to help me in court, and Mr. Beans, aka James, he wiped the floor with the guy in court, and I lost my kids and my paycheck. It went all in one swoop. The guy seemed to take delight in watching me get crapped on so badly in court. No doubt because Laura had filled his head with lies about what an evil guy I am. Beans probably thought he was doing the community a favor. I was left standing in court speechless, absolutely penniless, and stressed beyond belief. I had to buy a used suit from the Salvation Army just to appear in court. I currently work 2 jobs just to have some leftover change to support myself, because most of my money goes to my children. I'm struggling to survive this way, and every time I turn against Laura, she's asking for more money. She doesn't work or lift a finger to help the kids. Laura even has a drinking problem, which she's in extreme denial about. She blows the child support money on going out drinking. I know this because this is what she did when we were married. She was a huge financial drain on me then and still continues to be now. I've been pushed to my financial limit lately, working around 100 hours a week between my 2 jobs, and sometimes I even pull an extra shift or 2 if I can muster it. I love my children. I want what's best for them, but I know my hard-earned money is not going to the right place when Laura is in charge of spending it. Every time I've seen her since the divorce, it seemed like she has some new clothing, new jewelry. Meanwhile, I'm the one who has to take Bert and Bailey shopping for clothing. Laura seems to be conveniently all out of money around Christmas, birthdays, but she always has new fancy things for herself. I've tried to argue my case in court, but I can't afford a good lawyer. This brings me to the reason I'm even typing this for you guys today. The other day I get a letter in the mail saying Laura is taking me to court yet again, this time wanting more child support money. Alright, I wasn't surprised by that, but what makes me angrier than anything is the letter from her lawyer. Also says I'm a deadbeat father. Deadbeat father? What the heck? Have you ever heard of a deadbeat dad who works 2 jobs to provide for his children, who I barely get to see, I might add? This is ridiculous. So not only is Laura begging for more money yet again, but she's leaving a paper trail of slandering of my name, right there in the court system. Her jerk of a lawyer deserves to pay for allowing crazy Laura to go after me like this. The irony of all of it is, I know my child support money is paying Laura's legal fees. I'm paying my own legal adversary. I realize quickly that if I want to get my children back, or at least shave off some of these hefty child support payments, I need an airtight defense in my favor. If I can't afford a lawyer, I'm going to have to do a lot of work myself. But I had another option as well. There's a local private investigator named Horton Dills, who, by the way, is notorious for digging up dirt on people. He's been involved in a ton of court cases in our area, so the way I see it, Horton is a valuable player, and he's as valuable as a lawyer, and a heck of a lot cheaper. Anyways, am I the a-hole for doing this? I know, it's my duty as a father to pay child support, and I don't mind doing it, but it's not fair that I pay 100% of everything for these kids. As I said, my ex-wife Laura does not even work. She's not worked even since she got fired nearly 6 months ago. So I'm supporting 3 people in addition to myself with my child support payments. I might even have to get a 3rd job now that she's dragging me through the court system again. And I've had no choice but to hire the great investigator Horton. But there's also something in me that tells me I should just stop fighting her and just keep working even harder to do what's right for the kids. I want the best life for them, you know. But I'm just their father. I'm only half the equation. Their mother needs to contribute, and I'm tired of juggling all this on my own. Sometimes I just want to run far away from everything, like change my name, heck, move to Jamaica or something. But I know I can't ever turn my back on Bert and Bailey. For what it's worth, I had my first meeting with Horton, and he gave me some reassuring words. He told me if that what I say about Laura's neglectful and abusive behavior is in fact true, he can find evidence that will have to be used in court. He told me he could even find dirt on a choir boy or a nun. And I had a bit of a chuckle at that one. I haven't laughed in a very long time. So I guess I'm just looking for advice, reassuring words, thoughtful responses, whatever you guys have to offer, because I'm sick of tired of just living this way, and I feel like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff here. Call me crazy or call me a jealous ex-lover, I don't care. I have a strong gut feeling Laura and James Beans are more than just a normal legal client relationship. I try not to have any personal vendetta against the guy because he's a lawyer doing a job that he's been paid quite well to do. I mean, heck, I would do the same. But the fact that he keeps agreeing to go after me even when I'm paying well over the national average in child support payment is just so fishy. Really fishy to me. It's like he gets some personal stake in the matter, and it does not sit well with me. Some of you reading this might think that, hey, I'm just being a bit ridiculous, bitter, paranoid, but I would not say all this even if my gut wasn't going off like a bomb. Do you know what's funny? If I have to contact Laura for whatever reason, she acts like I'm harassing her and is rarely civil. Yet here she is, blowing up my phone again right now as I type this. She's leaving these drunk voice messages. Well, I'm going to forward every single one of these to Horton Deals, right here as evidence of her reckless behavior. Laura doesn't know who she's messing with. I'm not going to just lie down and take this anymore. Well, thanks guys. I'll be back later to tell you how this goes. Wish me luck whatever path you think that I should take. What's up everybody, Mr. Reddito here. Today's story is an intense drama. The only bad part is there's children stuck in the middle of this drama. Well, there's multiple updates to hop into. This next update is started with some good news, and then it switches up a bit. If you guys are not subscribed to the channel, just know, it helps support me so much, and I appreciate it. So click that red subscribe button underneath this video, and let's jump into update number 1. Hey guys, it's David here. I'm back for an update, and I actually have some good news. Wow, it's not good news, but it's good news for the case I'm building against Laura if you're just now tuning in. Let me do a little catch-up for you. I'm trying to win custody of my kids from my abusive, neglectful ex-wife. What that means is all I need to do to win is wait for this woman to be herself. Ha! Horton Dills is already providing himself to be worthy. Granted, I can't tell if this recent revelation is the work of Horton's masterful detective work, or Laura's general carelessness and plain stupidity. Horton gave me a call today and told me to drop by his office pronto. He said he had some fresh dirt. Well, I get very excited immediately and stopped what I was doing, hopped into my car and sped over to his office as fast as I could. He was sitting there, drinking a glass of scotch, which was fitting for him. He turned his computer around to me where I could see it. Right there on the computer screen, and my jaw dropped. I was a bit bewildered by what I saw, but it started to make sense the more I scrolled. See, what Horton Deals was showing me was a Facebook group, and the moderator was run by Laura. Laura must have thought it was a private group because there was plenty of evidence of illegal activity in there, but everything was public. Every post, every picture, everything. Laura's the admin of the group. The name of the group is, quote, Girls Club, which does not raise any immediate red flags, right? But as I read the post and looked at the photos and talked to Horton, it became clear. Laura was presiding over a group where divorced women brag about all the child support money that they scammed off their ex-husband. I know most single mothers who get child support deserve every single penny of it, but I couldn't believe what I was seeing here. So many women who were just like Laura, gloating about their possessions and money, which clinched it was all illegal activity. There was evidence of Laura drinking and driving. For crying out loud, I mean messages about it. So forgive me, guys, if I seem a little excited, but this is exactly the type of evidence I've needed to take Laura down for once and for all. Obviously, she's not fit to take care of my children. If she's using my child support money to go out to bars, clubs, buy all these expensive diamonds while drinking and driving on top of that, and then the genius posted on a forum. Ugh. Update number 2. Hey guys, I wish I was not having to come back and write this update for you today, but unfortunately, I did not have the evidence I thought I had in my last update. I know, hear me out. It seems like nothing ever works out. Let me fill you all in on what happened yesterday. I had the most recent court appearance in my custody battle against Laura. I was there all again, alone, while Laura was there with James Beans, who was wearing a fresh Armani suit, per usual. I got steamrolled right there in court, and I showed the judge pictures of the Facebook group where Laura was showing off her drinking and driving, partying, big spending, all of it. I thought I had her right where I wanted her. But then James Beans objective, and apparently Laura deleted every single shred of evidence from the Facebook group. Well, of course, claiming the page never existed, and told the judge that I must have forged the photographs just to try to make Laura look bad. Well, I tried to defend myself, I'll have you, but James Bean had kept talking over me and the judge just sat there and let it happen. As if that wasn't bad enough, let me go ahead and drop the other bombshell. James Bean read allegations to the courtroom right there that Laura was accusing me of abuse. That's right. I tried to say that she was the one who abused me, but James argued that a beautiful woman like Laura could not be abusive. I thought that was a flimsy argument at best, and I tried to say so, but Beans just kept on yapping. He loves the sound of his own voice, apparently, and I also thought it was unprofessional, that he was practically flirting with my ex-wife right there in the middle of the courtroom session. Beans. I asked for evidence or even examples of abuse, and Laura told James Beans to tell the court that I was gaslighting and a manipulator who was unfit to take care of our children. She would even address me directly. She had to get Beans to tell everybody for her. I retorted that that was exactly how I would describe her, and the judge reprimanded me. Guys, I can't even believe I'm getting screwed by the justice system like this. On top of the legal fees, child support fees, and having my evidence destroyed at the last second, now I'm facing allegations. Update number 3. Hey guys, David here. I have another update for you all. If you've been reading this far, you'll know that things have not exactly been going my way in the situation. But recently I stumbled upon something that I think is going to help me in the future. Let me fill you in on what I found out. So, as I mentioned in the previous post, Laura was fired from her job some time ago. Supposedly, and that's why I've been working my butt off for 2 jobs so that I could pay so much in child support. The whole time I thought it was fishy that I was being ordered to pay so much child support, when surely Laura must be getting unemployment after being laid off from her job. At least, she had told me she was laid off from her job, and I believed her. That was my first mistake. So I decided to pay a visit to Laura's old workplace. I went to Hardee's on 5th Ave, where Laura had been an executive chef. I asked to speak to a boss about an ex-employee. The worker at the counter thought it was strange and got a bit defensive until I mentioned it was about my ex-wife, Laura. You see, the guy immediately understood. He invited me to his back office and I met Laura's old boss sitting right there at the desk. We got right away and started talking things out, and unsurprisingly, Laura has a bit of a reputation around the restaurant. Apparently, she was absolute hell to work with. Shocker, right? But then came the kicker. Laura had never been fired at all. She voluntarily resigned from her own position. The day she quit the job, she had come into work drunk as a skunk and had been bragging to everybody about, well, that she was going to get into retirement because she was going to devote her life to mooching off her ex-husband, aka me. Well, this was great information to find out. I now had concrete proof evidence. Unfortunately, none of Laura's admissions of fraud were caught on camera. Hardee's has a video footage of Laura quitting her job, but none of the footage had any audio. I asked Horton if this would be admissible in court, and he told me it would not. Still, I can't help but feel like I'm getting closer to the information I need. Stay tuned for another update. Update number 4. I'm ecstatic. This is the happiest I felt in a long time, and I'm going to tell you what happened in this update. I'm going to cut right to the chase and make it a short one. There are 2 things that I think are going to help me win the case. Horton Dills called me to his office today and filled me in. First and most importantly, he was able to convince my children to testify in my favor in open court. Well, lately, Laura has been keeping Bert and Bailey away from me, so I haven't really been able to see them. I knew if I tried to approach them at school, it would raise a red flag, because I'm sure Laura has badmouthed me to all the children's teachers. Horton was able to get a written statement from my children. He thinks the judge will allow it because my children were not coerced into giving the statement. Laura has no idea that we even arranged it. The morning of the next court date, I'll be checking my children out of school and taking them straight to the courthouse. I can't wait to see the look on Laura's face. The second bombshell Horton Dills dropped on me was an even more shocking surprise. He showed me photographs and evidence from social media as well, and apparently my gut feeling was right all along. James Beans and Laura had been engaging in a relationship, and it goes deep. Don't get me wrong, Laura's relationship are her own business. I don't even care who she dates. But it demonstrates a huge breach of ethics on James Bean's part to violate the lawyer code by engaging in a romantic relationship with a direct client. This explains why James Beans had been targeting me so aggressively. It always felt like Laura just had this powerful lawyer simply wrapped around her pretty little fingers, and now I've gotten the proof. Well, let me top it off for you. Horton was able to record a conversation Laura and James Beans had while eating at the local McDonald's. He was sitting adjacent to another table in disguise. They never suspected a thing, and bada bing bada boom, it was done. The phone call details their plans to go on vacation together with my money. I'm so excited for my next court date. I never thought I would say this, but I'm ready to get my kids back and get my peace of mind. I want Laura out of my life for good. And James Beans, too. Update number 5. This is the final update by OP. Hey guys, it's definitely been a while since my last update, but I didn't come back to share bad news. I just wanted to wrap everything up for you since everybody's left such supportive, thoughtful comments this whole time. I've just been too busy living my best of life. But I wanted to give you all one final update. The court date went, well, wonderfully. I had butterflies of anticipation in my stomach, but once I got to the courtroom, everything went according to plan. I even had Horton Dills in the courtroom by my side. He didn't mind blowing his cover because he was confident this would be the last court date I would be having with Laura. First, we called Bert and Bailey to stand and testify against Laura. The look on her face, by the way, it was priceless. She nearly screamed in court once she saw them, and James Beans demanded to know why he had not been informed of their presence, but the judge allowed my children to speak. They spoke in great detail about how Laura is an absentee mother who doesn't buy them enough food or clothing ever. They detailed her deep abuse, her mishandling of money. I'm talking everything. I was proud of them for being brave enough to face their mother and speak their minds like that. Me and Horton probably could have stopped there, but I wanted to end this once and for all. We brought upon the evidence to the court, Laura and James Bean's unethical relationship. We showed the photographs and the social media posting, which have not been deleted this time, and Horton even played the tape from Mickey D's, in which Laura and James bragged about scamming me and going on their little vacation on my penny. Finally, the judge said he's had enough. He ordered Laura to get a job, give her 30 days to do so, or she's going to be put in jail and assigned a job right here behind bars. She got the message loud and clear that this was serious, as she didn't have a sassy retort this time. The judge ordered Laura to pay her equal share of child support, while also repaying me all the money I gave her that she mishandled. The judge also ordered James Beans be suspended for violating ethics. Best of all, I was given custody of old Burton Bailey, and I did it all without hiring an expensive lawyer. As I type this today, I'm living in a different city with Burton Bailey. I have no idea what James and Laura are even up to, and to be honest with you, I could care less. Because me and my kids are happy and taken care of, so this is it. Thank you. Thank goodness Burton Bailey. They were able to go live with OP and basically are going to have a better life, less neglect, and just overall better support. And at the same time, it looks like, Mr. Beans got his license revoked, so he can't be messing around with the affairs of his clients any longer. Let me know if you think that was over the top of OP to go after Beans. I don't think it was. I think it was played expertly. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. I got hurt. I was in a coma, and I expected my family to be there for me, and they were. Well, almost all of them, except for one very important person. My wife. I'm a successful accountant, well respected in my field, and admired by many. I have everything I could want: a thriving career, a luxurious lifestyle, and a beautiful woman named Anna. But despite all this, our marriage is not really picture perfect as it may seem. Before I met Anna, she was deeply in love with a guy who was a member of an extremist biker gang. Yeah, I know. Her parents, of course, disapproved of their relationship, and it shattered her. When I met her, she was working at a local grocery store trying to make ends meet and support herself. Being a successful guy in need of marriage, I decided to, woo her. But you see, Anna was not interested. She was guarded and reserved, hesitant to let anyone into her life. Despite my best efforts, she remained uninterested, so I began going to that grocery store where she would work just to catch a glimpse of her. But even then, she would not give me the time of the day. I was at a loss for what to do until one day, I decided to follow her home. I know it wasn't the most ethical decision. I know, but I was desperate. Once I got to her address, I began sending her flowers, which I thought was her favorite kind, of course. Her parents were understandably weary of the gifts, assuming they were from one of the biker gang guys, who were still trying to mess around with their daughter. But oh boy, I was persistent. I finally decided to visit Anna at her parents' house one day, hoping to win them over and maybe get a chance to speak to her. When I arrived, Anna wasn't there, so I revealed myself to be the one who had been sending gifts to their daughter. And to my surprise, they were absolutely pleased. They welcomed me warmly, happy to see their daughter receiving attention from a decent, respectable man. It was the direct opposite of the street boys they were used to seeing around their daughter, and I could tell they appreciated that. Despite the warm welcome from Anna's parents, the day did not turn out how I'd hoped. Anna was unresponsive. I did my best in trying to establish a conversation right there with Anna by asking her a question or making a comment about something which required her input, but she was just disinterested. Her parents felt her attitude was probably because of their presence there, and so they decided to give us some space. I felt more comfortable when they left the both of us alone at the parlor, but the fact that they left did not change her disposition. I was doing the talking while she just stared at the window like I was talking trash. I felt like a fool, but it was not the worst which could have happened. She suddenly could not hide the fact that she did not want to be there anymore, and that was when she snapped. She rebuked me for being so shameless to the point I would trail a lady down to her house, and appeared uninvited. Anna stormed out of the parlor and locked herself up in her room, while her parents, who had heard her screaming at me, running out. I explained what happened and excused myself from the home. Before leaving, though, her parents apologized to me on her behalf, and I made up my mind that I was done with her. But I got a surprise. 2 days after I had made up my mind to quit chasing Anna, I get a call from Anna. She was apologetic about the whole episode that's taken place at her house. She claimed that she had recently split with her boyfriend of 5 years, and the whole thing was taking its toll on her. And that was the reason she had acted the way she did. She went as far as inviting me for lunch at her family house that weekend. So my anger died and my dead ego rose. I honored Anna's lunch invitation, and it was better off than the last time, though I suspect that her parents had a hand in it. They probably talked to her to give me a chance, and the lunch was at the beginning of our other dates. It did not take up to 3 months before we officially began dating. I had always had marriage in view right from the very start, so I wasted no time in proposing to her. She did accept my proposal after a few weeks, and she did not seem overly excited, though, about the proposal. It was clear it would get to the point where I would have to ask her to be my wife. Her parents were more excited at the prospect of Anna and I spending the rest of our lives together. We began making plans for the wedding immediately. I couldn't help but feel conflicted as I thought about my relationship with Anna. On one hand, I was thrilled she'd accepted my proposal, but on the other, I just couldn't shake off the feeling that she was not into me as much as I was into her. I tried to brush off these doubts as pre-wedding jitters and focused on planning our big day. We decided on a simple wedding ceremony with just a few of the family members and close friends. Anna did not seem to be too interested in the planning process, leaving most of the decisions up to me. Despite her lack of enthusiasm, I was determined to make her happy. I went all out, making sure everything was perfect for her, and I rented a beautiful venue, hired the best caterers, and even got a band to play her favorite songs. The whole wedding day finally arrived, and as I watched Anna walk down the aisle, I could not help but feel a surge of love for her. She looked stunning, sitting there in her wedding dress, and for a moment, I felt like the luckiest man alive. But as the day progressed, I began to notice that Anna seemed distant. She barely talked to me and spent most of the time chatting with her friends. When we finally got a moment alone, I asked her what was wrong. She claimed that she's just overwhelmed by her change of status, and I understood where she's coming from, so I did not want to rush things. We didn't have sex on our wedding night because I wanted her to get comfortable first. I decided to give her space and time to figure things out, hoping that she would come around eventually, and days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months, but things did not improve. Anna seemed more distant than ever. The spark between us was non-existent, though, and, well, we had started having sex. Occasionally. Time gradually drags on, and most people who came across me easily get envious of my achievements. I was successful in my career and marriage, but what they did not know is that despite being a successful accountant and having a beautiful wife, my marriage was not what I'd imagined it to be. Anna and I had tied the knot, but it became apparent that Anna was still emotionally attached to the biker guy that she's been in love with before we met. She would always make these little remarks about how he did this or how he did that when they were together. It was as if I was a mere replacement for him, someone just to fill the void of love. I tried to ignore it and just focus on our marriage, but deep down, I knew something was off. One day, while going through some old photos, I stumbled upon a picture of Anna and her biker ex-boyfriend. She quickly snatched it out of my hand like I was trying to claim her prized possession. She never really thought about acting the way she did, and she even apologized. I had not asked her anything, and she began talking about how she was over her ex. Though her action flamed my suspicion of her still being emotionally attached to her previous lover. I mean, I didn't make anything out of it, I simply let it slide. Our intimate life remained an issue, though. I'd hoped to have a healthy and fulfilling sexual relationship with my wife, but it seemed like she wasn't interested. Whenever I tried to initiate it, she always had an excuse. And even when we did have sex, it felt like she was just enduring the process. Despite all this, we welcomed our first child, a beautiful baby girl. A year after we get married, I was excited to be a father and hoped that having a child would bring us closer. However, things only seemed to get worse. 2 years later, we were blessed with a baby boy. As happy as I was to have a son, I could not shake the feeling that something was missing in our marriage. Anna's behavior towards me did not change, and it was as if she was only going through the motions of being a wife. I would sometimes wonder if I've made a mistake by marrying her. I couldn't help but think that she was still in love with her biker ex-boyfriend and just settled for me. It was painful, but one that I could just ignore. I tried to talk to Anna about it, but she would always shut me down, saying how I'm just paranoid. As the days went by, I found myself becoming more and more frustrated with my marriage, and it seemed like my wife, Anna, was completely focused on our children and had no time for me. It was like I had become invisible to her, and I was starting to feel a stranger in my own home. At first, I tried to ignore it and hope that things would get better over time, but as months went by, it became clear that something needed to be done. I knew that I could not continue living like this, and I felt like I had no other option but to seek professional help. So, one day I sat down with Anna and told her that I thought we should see, a marriage counselor. I explained that I felt like our relationship was suffering because of the way she was neglecting me, and that I wanted to find a way to fix things. At first, Anna was hesitant. She didn't want to admit that there was a problem, and she seemed to think that I was simply overreacting. But I persisted, and eventually she agreed to go with me to see the counselor. When we got to the counselor's office, I was nervous. I was. I had never been to a therapist before, and I wasn't sure what to expect, to be honest. But the counselor was very kind and welcoming, and he put us both at ease. I explained to him what was going on in our marriage, how Anna seemed to be neglecting me since our kids came into the picture. The counselor listened carefully, and then he explained to me that it was natural for a mother's attention to shift towards her children when they came into the picture. However, he also noted that this was not an excuse for Anna to just completely neglect me. He suggested that there was probably things that I was doing wrong too, and that we needed to work together to find the solution. The counselor suggested that we hire a nanny, just to take care of our children so that Anna and I could spend some quality time together. He suggested that we go on a weekend getaway, just the two of us, to reconnect and strengthen our relationship, and Anna did not object to the idea, and we soon found ourselves on a romantic weekend away. It was a wonderful idea to spend some time alone together, and we both enjoyed ourselves immensely, but as the years went by, I found myself becoming more and more frustrated with our relationship. It seemed like every time Anna became unresponsive to my needs, I had to come up with a surprise getaway or gift, give her something just to get her attention. Our relationship had turned into a transactional exchange, where I had to spend money just to have fun with my wife. It was absolutely exhausting. I felt like I was losing myself in the process. I knew that something had to change, but I wasn't sure what to do. I was starting to feel like our marriage was simply beyond repair. And I didn't know how to fix things. I was at a loss for what to do, and our kids were now 11 and 13 years old. And my wife's neglect had returned worse than ever before. No matter what I did, she seemed to be unresponsive to my needs. She wasn't willing to be pacified with any gift, and neither was she willing to go on a vacation. It was like my mere presence irritated her. I had made up my mind never to cheat on my wife or bring our families in the problem that we had, but I couldn't take this in time around. I needed help, and I needed it fast, so I decided to go and see her parents. I knew that it was a risky move, but I didn't know what else to do, and I hoped that they could help me talk to Anna and get her to see the reason. I told them what I've been going through ever since I got married to their daughter. I explained how her neglect had become worse with time and how it was just affecting our marriage. To my surprise, her parents were very understanding. They listened carefully to what I had to say, and, they even offered some advice on how to improve our marriage. They told me that they would talk to Anna and they would try to get her to see things from my perspective. A few days later, I received a call from Anna's parents. They told me that Anna was coming over to their house, and they wanted me to be there too. Well, I was nervous, but I agreed to go. I'm currently at my in-laws' place, but my wife is not aware. She had informed me she was going to see them, but I didn't want to let her know that I was in on the whole thing. Anna was absolutely shocked when she walked into the house and found me there. Her parents began reprimanding her for her attitude, and could see the anger building up in her eyes. She warned them to stay out of our marriage, which they had coerced her into, and I couldn't believe what I was hearing. My wife had turned to me and insulted me for bringing our issues to her parents. She storms out of the house, leaving me alone with her parents, and I didn't know what to do. I felt like I've made a mistake by going to see them, and I was worried about what would happen next. I know our marriage is in trouble, but I don't know how to fix it. I'm about to drive home, and I can't help but think about the whole thing. I feel lost. I feel alone. And I don't know where to turn for help. So, guys, I love my wife. I really do, but I can't keep living like this. A change has to occur, but I don't know how it would have come about. I can't guess what my wife's reaction would be when I get home. Update number 1. Buckle your seatbelts. I woke up 2 weeks ago in a hospital after spending a week in a coma. As I slowly opened my eyes, I was immediately struck by the sharp pains coursing through my body. I tried to sit up, but my head throbbed with a dull ache. I couldn't muster the strength to move. Confusion, disorientation flooded me as I struggled to understand where I was, how I got here. I turned my head slightly and noticed the stark white walls of a hospital room surrounding me. I tried to remember how I got there, but my memory was hazy, and the last thing I recalled was driving home from my in-laws' house after a heated conversation about my marriage. I looked about the room, and my eyes settled on the medical equipment beside me. Tubes were attached to my arms, and wires were hooked up to machines that beeped, and would not stop. I was overcome by a sense of dread and panic as I struggled to make sense of what was happening. A nurse noticed my movement and came over to me, checking my vital signs and asking how I was feeling. I immediately asked her what had happened and how I ended up in the hospital. She explained that I was involved in a car accident while driving home from my in-laws' house. My mind raced as I tried to recall the events leading up to the accident. I remembered feeling distracted and upset about my marriage problems, but I couldn't remember anything else. So the nurse explains that I was rushed to the hospital by kind-hearted individuals who saw the accident and took it upon themselves to help. I asked the nurse about my wife and children, hoping that they came to visit. However, the nurse explained that only my in-laws have been checking up on me. My heart sank at the thought of my wife not being there for me when I needed her most. Well, as if on cue, my in-laws walk into the room, and I immediately asked them about my wife and children. They told me that they've seen Anna, my wife, only once since the accident when she came looking for the kids. They hadn't seen or heard from her since, and, well, they were too worried, and my mind was racing with all kinds of possibilities. Had something happened to my family? Why wasn't my wife there with me? The anxiety was overwhelming, and panic set in as I realized that I had no idea where my wife and children were. Had something terrible happened to them? I begged to leave the hospital, but the doctors insisted that I was too weak to leave. Well, my in-laws assured me that they'd already contacted the police and they were doing everything they could to find Anna and the kids. I felt completely helpless. Lying there in that hospital bed with no idea where my family was or what happened to them. All I could do was pray for their safety and hope that I would recover soon and I could join in the research. Well, the good is that the doctor finally informed me today that I was all right and would be discharged tomorrow. I look forward to getting out of this place and joining the search for my wife and kids. I'll update again. Hey guys, update 2. I was discharged from the hospital this morning. As I stepped out of the hospital, I felt a sense of relief that I'd finally been discharged. However, my mind was still racing with thoughts about my missing wife and children. The police have been searching for them ever since the accident, but to no avail. I couldn't imagine how they could have disappeared without a trace, and I took a deep breath and started making my way back home. I was hoping that maybe, just maybe, my family would be waiting there for me, but as I opened the door, my heart sank. The house, it was empty, and there was no sign of my wife or kids anywhere. I couldn't believe it. After all that's happened, I was back to square one. But then, as I turned to leave, I heard a sound. It was an oh-so-familiar sound, one that I've not heard in what felt like an eternity. It was the sound of my children's laughter. I followed the sound, and it led me to the basement, and there they were, my two beautiful children safe and sound. Well, I couldn't believe my eyes, as I was so happy to see them that I didn't even know what to say. They told me that their mother had remarried someone else and had wanted to take them away on a trip. That's when they decided to run away. Well, I believe the trip with their mother and her latest husband is one which they would not return. I believe she wanted to elope with them, and as I sat down with them to hear the story, I couldn't believe what my ears were hearing. My wife had remarried someone who I suspected to be her ex-boyfriend the very day that I've gotten into a coma. My heart broke as I listened to my poor kids. They've been through so much, and yet they're still so strong. I was impressed by their bravery and resilience in the face of such adversity. They were angry at what their mother has done, and I knew that I would have to do something to make things right. So I decided that my wife was not going to get away with what she's done. Bigamy was punishable under the law, and I knew that I had to report her to the police ASAP. Well, I couldn't let her deceive me and our children without any sort of consequences. It was a tough decision to make, but I knew it was the right one. As I dialed the police station's number, I could not help but feel a sense of relief. Reporting my wife would bring justice to what she's done, and it would also give my children the closure that they all need. As the police arrived at my doorstep, I informed them that my children were in my house, but they should keep on looking for my wife, as I would be suing her for bigamy. In the coming days, I would have to face my wife and confront her about what she's done. It wasn't going to be easy, but it was necessary. It was time to move on and start this new chapter inside our lives. One that did not involve lies and deceit. Update number 3. Hey guys, I just thought I should update because my wife's been detained at the police station. After my kids were found, the police had their plan to lure her out of hiding, and it seems to have worked magically. I had put up for sale signs in front of my house to make it seem like we were planning to move away. This was meant to make my wife believe she had limited time to carry out her plan, and she would come out of hiding to collect our kids. Police officers were disguised as individuals looking to buy the house and began coming to the house to feign inquiries about the property. We'd patiently waited for days so she could bite the bait. And oh boy, she bit. It was the 8th day. On that day, I left for work as usual and leaving the house empty. It wasn't long before my wife and her new partner showed up to collect the children who were just loitering about. I could only imagine the shock on their faces when they realized that they've been duped. The police had been waiting for them and quickly pounced on my wife and arrested her. Her new partner managed to escape somehow, but the police were confident they would be able to track him down eventually. Heck, I don't even know what crime he committed. The police quickly informed me that my treacherous wife had been arrested, and I made my way to the station from the office where I was anxiously waiting. As I drove to the police station, I couldn't help but feel a sense of sadness and straight-up betrayal. I'd loved my wife and had trusted her with my life, only to have her turn around and betray me in the worst way possible. But I also felt a sense of strength, determination. I was ready to face whatever came my way and fight for what was right. When I arrived at the police station, I was greeted by a team of detectives who were eager to hear my story. I mean, they were aware of the whole thing, but I was asked to make a fresh statement without leaving out any intricate details. This was because they would carry out further investigations, and any detail, no matter how minuscule, could prove useful. I retold them everything that's happened, from the accident that put me in a coma to the day I found my kids hiding in the basement. I also told them about my wife's marriage. The detectives listened intently, taking notes on their pad and asking questions. They assured me they would do everything in their power to ensure that my wife was brought to justice. It was a long and grueling process, but I knew I had to see it to the end. I left the police station after giving my statement, and they promised to keep me updated about their findings. I did not see my wife. I didn't want to. I could hurt her with my bare hands if I saw her, and so I decided against it. With my wife now in custody, I felt a sense of relief wash over me, but at the same time, I knew there was still a long trip ahead of us. My wife had committed a serious crime by marrying someone else while still being married to me. It was bigamy, and it was punishable under the law. I know I initially said I would sue her for bigamy, but I still need to take a few days to process everything that's happened. Whatever step I'd take, though, would bring about healing for my family. Update number 4, recovered update from the comment section. Hey guys, these past few days have been quite emotional for me, and I just need someone to talk to. I finally summoned the courage to visit my wife at the station. I just had to. As I sat across from my wife at the police station, I struggled to comprehend what I have just heard. After all the years we had spent together, the sacrifices I've made for her, she outrightly said she never loved me. I looked at her face, searching for any sign of remorse or regret behind those eyes, but all I saw was cold indifference. She was unapologetic about her reactions and seemed to have no remorse for the pain she had caused our family. I felt a wave of anger wash over me, followed by deep hurt and disappointment. How could someone who had been my partner for so long, the mother of my children, betray me like this? My mind raced with questions, but I found myself struggling to put them into words. Why? I finally managed the courage to say. Why would you do this to us? My wife looked at me with a detached expression and said, It was clear from the beginning that I never loved you. You're just too stupid to see it. The marriage between us was a result of the coercion of my parents and your creepiness to find out where I lived. And if you weren't so naive, then you would have ended it before it began. Well, her words felt like a punch to the gut. It was bad enough that she's cheated on me, but to hear her confirm that she's been carrying a torch for someone else the entire time we've been together, well, it was almost too much to bear. I felt a deep sense of shame wash over me. Why did she deny her feelings for her ex all these years? I felt I made a mistake by spending so many years trying to get her to fall in love with me. But as my wife continued to speak, I realized that this has nothing to do with me. This was about her desires. This was about her needs, and how she had chosen to act on them without any regard or the consequences. If she never loved me, she should have said so and not endured me. You don't blame a man for trying to woo a lady. That's what men should do. So, I left the police station with the decision to sue her for bigamy and every other legal lawsuit possible. I'll be going to see her parents and let them know what I plan to do. I owe them that much before I take her to war, because they were there at the hospital, and though their daughter accused them of coercing her into marrying me, they were simply making what they felt was the best choice for their daughter. Which parents would prefer a guy who was in a biker gang, known for criminal activity, over a polished accountant? Update number 5, final update of the story, the wrap-up. Well, this will be my last update, the wrap-up. And it'll be a very short one as my life is stable at this point. I went to my ex-wife's parents' house 3 months ago to inform them of my decision to sue their daughter. They begged me to reconsider, but I could not let her get away with what she's done, especially when I saw the fact that she was not remorseful. The court case was long and stressful, but eventually justice was served. My wife was sentenced to 5 years in jail and had to pay a large sum of money as compensation for her actions. It wasn't the outcome I hoped for, but it was a relief to know that she would never be able to hurt again. I was also, granted custody of my children, which was a huge weight off my shoulders, and I knew I could now focus on rebuilding our lives without the constant fear of her interference. It's been 3 weeks since my wife's began serving her sentence of 5 years, and life's been slowly getting back to normal. I'm grateful for the support of my friends and family, most importantly for my children. They've been my rock through this difficult time, and I know that we'll get through it together. As for my personal life, I'm not currently in a relationship. It's just too soon. And I need to focus on being there for my kids, but I do hope to find love again someday. It's just that this time, I'll make sure that it's with someone who actually loves me for who I am, not just for what I can provide. I've learned my lesson and won't be spending another 15 years of my life trying to make someone love me. I mean, I deserve better, and so do my children. Okay, so I just want to hear from you guys. What do you think of this story? To me, it was absolutely wild. The fact that OP even basically stalked her just to find out where she lived. Yeah, no wonder the relationship didn't work out. She told you she didn't want to be with you, but at the same time, I'm kind of confused why she was going along with it for so many years, even having his kids. Let me know your thoughts about this, guys. Drop it in the comment section. My wife passed away from something horrible. It took me a long time, but eventually I started to love again. This is the point where I met another girl who was about 10 years younger than me. But hey, we hit it off. Long story short, we get married. But I am soon to find out that this woman is not who I thought she was, and I should have listened to my best friend because this woman becomes an absolute nightmare. I'm 37 male. I've been married to my second wife, Kelly. She's 27 for 8 months. We met at a party related to my work, and she introduced herself and gave me her phone number. I'd not dated since the death of my first wife, and I guess I was flattered that someone much younger than me wanted to get to know me. She does not work for my company or for the other companies who were at the party, but was a friend of someone who did. I work for a financial firm, and so every few months we have these big mixed-up parties for clients and anyone we're trying to gain as new clients. I don't actually enjoy them, but it's part of my job. I find it really tedious having to talk to people, and with existing clients I have to be overly nice to them and make sure they stay with us. It's really not in my character, and it feels so fake. However, I'm good at it, so I do my best as it works in my favor to keep clients and gain new ones, as that's where my income comes from. I'm on a very good income, and it gives me a good life. When I met Kelly, I've been on my own for nearly 2 years following the death of my first wife, Melissa. Melissa and I met at university and stayed together while we both worked on building our careers. She was the love of my life in every single way. I thought I'd found myself a forever. A few years after we got married, Melissa started to feel very tired all the time, and she was working long hours. We didn't think too much about it until one day, she passes out at work. She was rushed to the hospital, and when I arrived, we were both convinced she just needed to take some time off to recharge and discuss how maybe we should go on a holiday somewhere, as we both could do with a rest. However, the doctors had carried out a number of tests when Melissa arrived to rule out things. And when they got the results, our perfect little life changed. Melissa was told that she had a tumor in her head, which was causing all the issues. Melissa was always the practical one, and so she immediately asked what treatment she needed. There was no hesitation, and she never once thought that she would not be able to beat this. Because I loved her and knew how strong she was, I never doubted her either. She began treatment, which was really hard on her body, and she had a couple of operations. She never gave up. Never. And you never saw her feeling sorry for herself. We were lucky that we had a family support and our best friend James and Marcy. They live close by. Melissa and Marcy have been roommates in college and we're still best of friends. Finally, the doctors told us that although the tumor had not gone, it was in a state that could stay dormant for years. Even forever. And we celebrated. Well, I guess we celebrated too soon. It was only 9 months later when Melissa collapsed again and we were told that there was now nothing the doctors could do for her. I was a mess. But Melissa was not even slightly fazed. She was strong in hindsight. I think that she was hiding her fear and distress from me, and Marcy has said that sometimes when I was at work, Melissa would cry when Marcy was with her. I wish she had not tried to be so strong all the time. Anyways, on the last birthday I celebrated with her, Melissa got me Odie. Odie's my dog, and he's my best friend. Sorry, James. I think Melissa knew that when she died I'd fall apart and would need something to help me hold it together and be my companion when she was no longer here. Odie is a German shepherd who has grown from a dopey puppy whose feet and ears were too big for him into a beautiful, loyal, protective adult dog. He's my everything. Melissa passed away on a beautiful summer day with her family and friends by her side, and for a while, I thought my life was over. I wanted nothing more than to join her, but Odie helped me get through it as he needed me for food and walks and attention. Over the last 2 years, I've mourned and pulled myself back into my life and work. I still missed Melissa each and every day, and I always will, but I started to live again. Then I met Kelly. Kelly and I decided to take a chance on love, and from the start, James and Marcy disapproved of her. It was mainly Marcy who was against me marrying Kelly, and I just assumed it was because I've been married to her best friend, and she didn't want someone else replacing Melissa in my life. It was definitely the most difficult decision for me to make, as well, that I could maybe open my heart to another woman. I wanted to take things slow, but Kelly is like a whirlwind of energy. She came into my life and everything changed. I went out more, we went on trips, and I really began to just enjoy my life. I never noticed anything about Kelly which would suggest that she had a problem with me being a widower, and I was annoyed when James and Marcy suggested that Kelly was just looking for an easy life. I told them to stop being so close-minded because of the age difference and the difference in financial situations between Kelly and me. Well, Kelly was a waitress, and although she had wanted to study beauty therapy, it was too expensive. I said I'd be happy to support her further her education. Things got serious, and I asked Kelly to marry me, which I guess did seem like a rushed decision, as we've only been dating for 5 months when I proposed. My family and friends were not as keen on this as I was, and said I was just rushing things. One evening, James took me out for a drink and asked if I was sure this was the right thing to do. Well, to be honest with you, I got a little angry that he doubted my judgment. But he held up his hand in surrender and said that if I was happy, then I should know that he and Marcy would always be there. He suggested also something I had not thought about. Well, James is a lawyer, and he said I should put a prenuptial agreement in place, and I tried to push the idea away, but he said that if I was right, and this really was love, then it wouldn't matter, as Kelly would not leave me once she was entitled to my money, and if I was wrong, it would protect me. I realized he was not going to let this go, and so I said, yeah, bro, draft up the agreement, and I would sign it, and Kelly would be asked to sign it before we married, and James seemed reassured by this, and plans went ahead for the wedding. Kelly, however, did sign the agreement, but she was not happy. She was upset that it meant that I did not trust her and saw her as some kind of gold digger. I said that was certainly not the case, and it was just something that was common in marriages these days. I admit I lied here, as I said it was something my work was asked for me in the earlier days of our marriage, as my financial assets were handled by them. Well, she was still not happy, but she signed it, and I did suggest that down the line we could probably just get rid of it, which made her happy. We got married and she moved in with me. I guess you're wondering, why am I writing all this about my seemingly perfect life, but there's something that's bothering me, and I'm not sure whether I should be upset or not. I would talk to James and Marcy, but they already are against Kelly, and this would just give them more ammunition for the fire. Kelly and I have been married just over 8 months, and there are things about her that were not there before we got married. I'm not sure if I'm overreacting, but she seems to have changed. It's just little things, but I'm wondering if they're a sign of a bigger issue. Before we were married and she would come to this house, she was aware that I had photos of Melissa in the home. After Kelly and I got serious, I took down the wedding photos and stored them with Melissa's wedding dress in the attic. I still have photos of Melissa, but they're not in the main rooms. In the main rooms, I have the wedding photos from my wedding to Kelly, our honeymoon, our life together. The photos of Melissa are in the guest bedrooms where family and friends who knew her stay when they visit. The house does have mementos of my life with Melissa, as this was our home together, and we shopped for all the furniture, the artwork, the decorations, you name it. 2 days ago, I come home from work and I went to put some clean towels into our guest room as my parents were coming to stay and all the photos were gone. I checked the other guest room as I have a big house and there were not a single photo of Melissa left. I was confused and went to ask Kelly where they were. Kelly was sitting in the kitchen looking at brochures for wallpaper and furniture, and she looked at me and said, "Oh, I got rid of them. You need to stop living in the past. She's gone. I'm here, so, yeah, I don't want her in the house." I was hurt to my core, and then I heard Kelly say this. "I've asked an interior designer to come and plan out the new decor. I'm not living in a dead woman's house. It all has to go. All of it." Well, I couldn't formulate a reply, so I took Odie for a long hike to cool down and think. So, this is why I'm writing this. Should I have thought about this before and realized that my new wife would not want to live with the ghost of my deceased wife, or should I be allowed to have some memories of my first love in my home? Not displayed in the main rooms, of course. I mean, I love Kelly. She's my wife, but I will also always care for Melissa's memory. What's up, everybody? Mr. Reddito here. I hope you guys are having a great day. So today's story has multiple updates. Let's go ahead and jump into number 1. And it seems like there was a lot of mixed reactions to the first post. OP opens up about some of that in update 1, so here it is. Some are in support, and some calling me an insensitive a-hole in the comments I see. I guess I deserve that, but it's not a straightforward situation, is it? In response to those who said I was being insensitive, I strongly disagree. I've never compared Kelly to Melissa. They're two very different people at the end of the day. As soon as things got serious between us, I made sure to move any photos of Melissa to rooms that Kelly did not use, and they were there for the comfort of family and friends. I'm still very close to Melissa's family, you know, as I've known them for a long time. They still come and visit me so they can visit Melissa's resting place. They live across the country, and so it always made sense that they stayed in my home, as I have more than enough room for guests. From the very start of my relationship with Kelly, I was honest about Melissa, and that I was still raw at times for her loss, as we were married forever. It was also clear that Melissa's family was part of my family. It's not as though I suddenly got married to Kelly and went, "Surprise! Come and live in my mausoleum to my dead wife, and hey, just so you know, her family will be here at all times." Kelly was totally aware of the past and all these things. And when she moved in with me, I was open and honest about moving the photos into another part of the house. We have 8 bedrooms, not to boast, so Kelly can completely ignore that room. Also, I don't go and sit for hours looking at my dead wife's photos as some suggested. I only ever go in to change the bedding and leave new towels when we're expecting some guests. I hope that clears things up on that. Maybe I should have been more clear, and that was, well, what was upsetting me was that Kelly had done all this without talking to me. She never once mentioned that the photos upset her, or the decor was something she felt linked to my Melissa. If she had talked to me, I would have tried to find a way to sort things out, as when it comes down to it, it's just the wallpaper. What I can't seem to get over is that she threw the photos away. They're gone. I searched through the trash for hours that night, and finally she noticed and said, "I knew you would do that, so I shredded them." My new wife shredded all the photos of Melissa, and I hurried to the attic, and to my relief, all the wedding photos in Melissa's dress are still there. I called Marcy, asked her to come and get them. I told Kelly that all she needed to do was tell me it was hard, and I would have sent everything to Melissa's family or to Marcy. I explained that I was hurt, that she destroyed my memories, and she just shrugged, said that it was just a photo and I need to get over it. I've stewed on my hurt and anger for days, and I'm still flicking between thinking she was wrong and then flipped to thinking I was insensitive. Marcy and James think Kelly was completely in the wrong for this, though. Well, Marcy said she was a psycho, but she was never liking Kelly anyways. I asked them to keep the photos and I'd work on the solution. I said that maybe some new decor for the house would be good anyways, as it's not been done for a while. As I left the house, I heard a sound behind me as Marcy pretended to whip James, suggesting I was being whipped into shape by my wife. I was angry and things are not getting great between us at the moment. I can't cope with my best friends hating my wife. So, I talked to Kelly and explained why I'm hurt. She did make me some sort of apology, but I think it was half-hearted and I just don't want the fighting as I have a lot to work on. Well, I think a bigger issue may be brewing and I'm not sure what to do. Kelly mentioned that she did not want Melissa's parents to stay with us this weekend as it had been arranged. She said that they should get a hotel as she did not want to have to play nice to them. She said she thought they looked down on her and Melissa's parents are gentle, kind people and would never do that at all. Kelly also said that once the house has been redecorated to her taste, Odie was not allowed to be inside the main room. He had to be moved to the garage or a dog's house would need to be built. Oh boy, on that one, I put my foot down. Odie is my dog. Odie's my best buddy. There's no way in heck he's being sent out to live in the garage, no matter that the place is nice. He's used to company. I love that dog. This is the one thing I will not compromise on, ever. Alright guys, Mr. Edito here. So the next update did not come out for months. Well, here it is, update 2 just a few months later, and oh boy, prepare yourself. I've not updated this for quite a while, sorry about that. I got busy with work and never-ended redecorations, and I thought things were settling in. I'm a complete and utter idiot. I was just so blinded by my loneliness and the fact that a younger, attractive woman found me, well, attractive, that I was not thinking with my head. James had pointed out many times since all this went to heck that it was not my brain that was controlling my body. So it's gonna be a long, crazy ride. Please buckle up. In my last update, when I still believed my wife loved me, I was saying that things were going to get better. We were compromising and decorating, and I sent all the remainders of Melissa to friends and family. And I was trying to be a better husband. I like to think that I'm an intelligent man. I work for a huge business, make a lot of money doing complicated deals. But Kelly turned me into a gullible, stupid weakling, and I didn't even see it. Everyone else did, and I pushed them away. We'll start with the first time I should have seen the cracks in the fairy tale I thought I was living. Melissa's parents came to stay with us as planned, and Kelly was distant with them, but I put it down to her feeling uncomfortable as the new wife. Melissa's parents went out of their way to reassure her that they did not think she was replacing their daughter at all, and that they're happy that I was smiling again. The first night, things were okay. Kelly was quieter than usual, but hey, it went okay. Melissa's parents had a lot of plans of their own, so they weren't under our feet, and really, they were just using our house as a base. Until I came home from work, and well, they were gone. I didn't notice at first, as they were often out, but an hour or so after I got home, I get a text from James telling me to get my butt over here and do not tell Kelly. I thought something happened to Marcy, but when I got there, I was stunned to see Melissa's parents sitting on the sofa with their suitcases by the door. I asked what's going on. Melissa's mom tried to explain, but she just cried. Marcy took over and said that when Melissa's parents had got home from their trip, their suitcases were by the front gate. We have a walled garden with locked gates with a handwritten note on them. Marcy handed me the note and I read it 3 times, trying to process what it said. My husband is a pushover. I am not. This is my house now and you're not welcome here. Your daughter is dead. She's gone. And you have no right to be in my house. Never contact us again. Well, I read it 3 times. I could not believe what I was reading, and I wish I could have argued that it was not written by Kelly, but I knew her writing as she was always leaving notes around the house with things she wanted me to change. I shook my head slowly, trying to sort out the range of emotions that I was feeling. Melissa's dad said to me that he wished I had told him how Kelly felt, and they would not have imposed on us. It just gave them comfort to be in the house where their daughter lived and was at their happiest. I was horrified that they would think that was how I felt and told them that I had no idea that Kelly was about to do that. James and Marcy exchanged looks and pointed out that I was probably the one who had not seen Kelly for who she really was. I asked Melissa's parents what they would do, but they assured me that they would be okay as they were going to stay with James and Marcy. But they said they would not be able to spend time with me whilst I was married to Kelly, as it was obvious that she resented them, and they could not deal with that. I mean, I was heartbroken, but I guess I understood. After I knew they had somewhere to stay, I headed back home to confront Kelly about this whole thing. It was as though my whole life was crumbling and I didn't even recognize the woman I married. When I arrived home, the front gate was open, which is never how it's left. We live in a safe area, but it's common sense to have the security gate shut when you have valuable property and a dog. I drove in and closed the gates behind me before going to look for Kelly. She was sitting in the living room sipping on some wine. Didn't even seem slightly bothered that I was going to find out what she's done. She just starts talking about cushions and color schemes, and I held up my hand to shut her up. Asked her what she was thinking, kicking Melissa's parents out, just dumping their suitcases on the street. She shrugged and just sipped her wine and asked what she was supposed to do when I wouldn't listen, and I was causing her mental anguish. I slumped onto the sofa opposite of her, tried to explain that she could not treat people I cared about like this. She needed to talk to me and we would find a way around things. She laughed and said, "That's what I did. I found a way to make myself happy." I was sitting with my hand in my head when she casually said, "Oh, that filthy dog of yours out the gate. You must have left it open when you went running to comfort your dead wife's parents." I looked at her. I've been home nearly an hour and she only just mentioned that my beloved Odie was gone. I was on my feet and out on the street before she had even finished talking. I called James and he came to join me. We searched the area until it got dark. I desperately called Odie's name until I could barely talk, but there's no sign of him. Whilst we were searching for the streets and the places I'd walk with Odie, Marcy phoned all the vets and animal shelters in the area, but there was no dog that matched Odie's description in any of them. I couldn't think anymore. Without Odie, I'd lost everything that represented my old life with Melissa. I slowly went home and Kelly was still drinking wine and flicking through fashion magazines, not even slightly bothered by my distress. I went to bed that night in one of the spare bedrooms and tried to work out what I was going to do. It was as though I've been hit by a real brick, and all the things James and Marcy and so many others had said just ran through my brain like a movie. As I looked back, I saw things that I ignored, red flags that I pretended not to see, or just put down Kelly to being younger. All the selfish, cruel incidents I turned a blind eye were now pushing their way back into my mind. As I fell into a disturbed sleep, all I could think was how sure I was that I'd closed the gate when I left, and deep in my soul I could not escape the fear that Kelly had let Odie out to get rid of him, as I refused to put him in the garage. Was this my fault? Should I have protected Odie by compromising over where, he lived in the house? I told myself tomorrow was a new day. I'd work things out when I was less emotional, but deep down I knew nothing would ever be done. Update 3. Final update. As you probably noticed, I was an emotional wreck when I wrote the last update. I'm still not in a great place, but for a different reason, really. My marriage is over, it's done, and I'll never make a stupid mistake like this ever again. I vowed that I'll listen to my friends and trust my true gut instincts. James said if I ever think with anything other than my brain, he'll give me a decent smack around the head. The morning after Odie disappeared, I woke up and tried to process my next steps. I had to go to work. I had a big project, and no matter how much I loved Odie, clients would not understand I was taking time off of a missing dog. I didn't see Kelly when I left. She's still in the bed, and so it spared me the argument that was going to happen. I made it through the day, and instead of going home, I went to see James, Marcy, and Melissa's parents. I told them that I was ready to accept I've made a huge mistake and I wanted to separate from Kelly. James rolled his eyes and said, "Oh, finally." And we talked a lot about the complications of getting Kelly out of my house and starting the divorce. I guessed and was correct that she would not go quietly. So, there's a lot to process about the aftermath of that decision, and it could fill a novel, but the quick version is that James came with me when I told Kelly that I want a divorce, and she needed to find somewhere else to live ASAP. She screamed and cried and threw things at us, but I stood firm. I pointed out that we had a prenup and that it clearly states that the house is mine, and she'd get a settlement as described in the agreement. In what turned out to be another lapse of judgment, I said that she could stay overnight and arrange somewhere to stay. Well, to say that was a mistake in an understatement. When I got back the following afternoon, it looked as though a bunch of starving bears had gone through the house. Wallpaper shredded, she'd ripped the curtains down, pulled the stuffing from the sofas, and written some very child-friendly comments in paint on the walls about manliness. Marcy, who was with me, said, "I told you she wasn't right in the head." We took photos of everything, and although I was resistant, James told me to call the police as it would definitely help in the divorce. So, when the police arrived, they said I had grounds to prosecute Kelly, but I was not sure that I wanted to go down that road. Until I did. You see, when Kelly was throwing things around the house and basically trashing everything I owned, she wasn't paying attention to the things she took with her, and that's when she found a sheet of paper where she had written down the contact details for the person she had sold Odie to. My dog never ran away. She got rid of him. So I called the number and explained who I was. The person on the end of the phone told me that Kelly had contacted him saying that her husband died, and she now had a big dog that she couldn't handle. He'd been advertising as he was a dog trainer, and so he'd happily help her. Kelly had paid him to take Odie. With my money? Once I explained the reality of what it was really going on, he was happy for me to go and get Odie, and in gratitude, I made a large donation to his place, as he takes in dogs people no longer can handle. To say I was ecstatic to get my dog was an absolute understatement. Odie was equally happy to see me, and I promised him I would never let anybody hurt him again. Well, guys, all this was a few months ago. Now the divorce is almost finalized and I'll be free of Kelly, who I now agree is not a good person. She tried really hard to tear my reputation apart in court and to people we knew through work. But word got all about the things she did to me, my house and my dog. Thankfully, Marcy has no qualms about spreading some gossip when it suits her. I'll be forever grateful to James for his advice about having a prenuptial agreement in place. I could have lost a great deal more than I did without it, so much came out during the divorce hearings about Kelly and the things that she's done in the past. I can't believe I did not see any of it. I'm not the first man she tried to take for everything they had. I was just the only one stupid enough to marry her. In conclusion to this sad tale of dumbness, who did not see the gold digger for what she was, I can give some closure because I will not be updating here again. So, just so y'all know, Kelly was arrested for what she did to my house. She denied it, but she never was bright enough, and we have security cameras that clearly showed her throwing stuff out the windows. And, well, through the windows. There was a lovely scene of her attacking the curtains with scissors. The dog trainer actually gave a statement about Odie, and I was supported by statements from James, Marcy, and Melissa's parents. It did not go well for Kelly, at all. The court made it clear that the agreement we had was all she was entitled to, but they then fined her for the damage to my home, and so she ended up having to pay me out of her settlement, which left her very little. I've redecorated the home, and the new photos of Melissa are back in the guest bedroom, where her parents can stay now again without fear of abuse. Odie's back at my house where he belongs, and the proud owner of a new dog bed, courtesy of Kelly's fine. Ironic, really, since she hated him so much, because I am a sucker for that dog. I've gotten him a friend. He now has a little sister, Lola. Lola's 7 months old and he loves her. For me and Odie, life is good. For Kelly, well, who cares? She reaped what she sowed. Last I heard, she was living in some cheap motel and back waitressing. Her reputation is in shreds and she deserves everything that she got. Alright guys, for a little bit of the story, I can kind of understand why the new wife would be some sort of jealous, but at the same time, what she did is absolutely unexcusable, and I would have gone so much further if I was OP. I would have called the cops right away. I wouldn't have played around. I would have not ignored those red flags. But the part of the story that absolutely made me furious was when she sold his dog. The one bond that he had left with his wife, who passed away, was the dog that she gave him. And this dog was his best friend, and she cold-heartedly had the guts to sell that dog and sit at home on the couch sipping wine, as if everything was hunky-dory. Guys, let me know exactly what you would do once you found out that, hey, this girl just sold my dog. Drop your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, show a little support. Subscribe to the channel, smash that like button, and leave a comment down below, guys. Have an amazing day, and remember, it's cool to be kind. I'll catch you later.